My older brother Malcolm had a small 6-foot by 3-foot table as a Christmas present, and then purely by accident in the next 6 or 7 months my father got made redundant. He was a miner and decided to take up steward and stewardess, as is my mother and father of course, at Anstey Conservative Club, which had a big table, a full-size 12 by 6 table, and of course I'd never seen one of those, having only been 13 years of age and playing on this small 6-foot by 3-foot table with my brother. And because I had been playing on that table, the chance of playing on a big table kind of excited me somewhat, and very quickly started playing there. Malcolm could play, and my younger brother Robert, they're both very, very average.
Where did you actually learn to play snooker and to actually get to the standard where you could become professional?
Well, everybody would probably remember who were involved in snooker, Osborne's Billiard Hall, which used to be in Cank Street in Leicester. It is now moved to Friar Lane, and they looked after me very, very well in the early days. From the age of kind of 15 onwards, I used to kind of come into the local billiard hall and quickly realised I wasn't that good a player, because playing at the local Conservative Club, I quickly became virtually the best player in the club after about a year. Of course, then I thought, well, this is it. I'm a great snooker player. But of course, all the better snooker players in those days used to go down to the local billiard hall and gamble for a few pounds and things like that. And when I went down to the local billiard hall, like I say, I quickly realised that I wasn't the best player. And I had a gentleman by the name of Brian Cakebread who started coaching me. I actually saw John Spencer play an exhibition at the Spinney Hill Working Men's Club many, many years ago. And there was about 300 people crammed into this room, and he actually made a 147 break, which is virtually unheard of in live exhibitions and things. And I just thought, well, wouldn't it be great to do that for a living? So really, from the age of 14, I played in all the junior championships and boys championships, and quickly became one of the best junior players in the country. And my ambition then was always to be a professional snooker player. I turned pro in 1976, and that was actually to go on to Pot Black, which was the longest running sports program of all time, even longer than Question of Sport. And I really looked up to the people like Ray Reardon and John Spencer. Then of course Alex Higgins came on the scene when he won the World Championship in 1972. I didn't look up to him as a person. I thought his off-the-table antics was something I didn't really want to copy. But as far as the gentlemanly conduct, Ray Reardon and John Spencer were the gentlemen of the game and were great ambassadors for the game, and probably down to those two plus Higgins is probably where the game is today.
You've got the reputation now for the 147 breaks. Was that something you managed to do quite early on? Was that reputation you picked up in the early days, or is that something you've picked up over the last few years?
Probably in the early days, really. When I really came to fruition as far as being a well-known snooker player, I was probably really more or less the 21 age, which is just after I turned professional. And very quickly, I'd made a few 147s, and I think in the middle 80s I was probably really known for them, because I was doing them, 1 or 2 a week, 3 a week sometimes, and doing them a lot in exhibition matches. I did one in the UK Championship in 1986. I've done one in one of the league matches, and it was just a nickname, really. People Ray Reardon was nicknamed Dracula or something. I was nicknamed Mr. 147. It's just one of those things that happened, and it's probably now more of a joke, the fact that, I haven't made one on television, so really people who have made one on television are more entitled to be, named after the 147 than myself.
I always think that snooker is a 50-50 game, 50% skill, 50% consistency and concentration. Does that consistency start to go when perhaps you get a little bit more tired, you've been doing a lot of travelling, you may actually have lost a bit of enthusiasm for the game as well?
Consistency has been my big problem over the years. One day I'm unbeatable and the next day I can lose to anybody, and that's something I've never really got to the bottom of. Temperament-wise has always been a big problem for me. I tend to look on the dark side sometimes. I know this, and I've tried to work at it. This is the reason I can talk about it. I look on the dark side. If I miss a shot or if somebody flukes a ball, I think, goodness me, why are they fluking against me? Instead of knuckling down, but it's one of those games where when you're sitting down and your opponent's at the table, all you can do is sit and watch, and it's cruel sometimes, especially if you know that you've got a chance to win and they're just winning purely by a little bit of good fortune, and now you've got to sit and watch. It's probably one of the only sports that you have to sit and suffer.
The other thing you mentioned, and it's one of the things that the press has picked up on over the years, is your marriage breakup, and you've been hounded by the press a little bit over the years. Does that get you down as well?
A lot of it's self-inflicted. I would be the first to admit that. If you're going to have an affair with another lady while you're married, it's going to eventually get found out, being a so-called sporting person. The gambling syndrome, that was another big thing in my life that obviously came to fruition, and I had a bankruptcy spell, This is all once again self-inflicted. So really, I have only myself to blame. The fact that I have been in the public eye for a long, long time now. I was kind of well to the front in the sport from kind of 1983 to probably 1990. 7 or 8 years in the spotlight, and it's a shame really that the press find it interesting to follow you around and try and find the bad things about you instead of the good things. I mean, Willie Thorne as a person does an awful lot of work for charity, and why don't they mention that rather than the fact that Willie Thorne likes to bet a horse, or Willie Thorne's seen out having dinner with a lady, or Willie Thorne has lost a lot of money in a casino or something. I mean, what difference does it make to anybody bar himself? It has ruined my life, the things that have happened to me off the table, and I'm trying, even though I'm probably a little bit old, to put it right on the table.
I would imagine that the family support at the difficult times in your life, the bankruptcy, the marriage breakup and everything, has kept you going.
It's fantastic support. My two brothers, Robert and Malcolm, have been behind me 100%, and my mother and father have been absolute statues in my life.
One of the nice things about Leicester is that all of the famous sporting and show business personalities from the area all know each other, but I think the friendship that you've built up with Gary over the years is well known now in the press, and he's been a good friend to you. You've been a good friend to him over the years as well.
Well, the biggest time, we've had a lot of times together. When my problems came, Gary was there on the doorstep, and of course when his son George first had leukemia, I was the first actually in the hospital. Gary is a very, very sensitive person, and we have been close pals, as you rightly mentioned, for many, many years.
Somebody else who's a better footballer and cricketer than yourself.
Yeah, certainly a better footballer. Cricketer, yes, I suppose I have to take my hat off to that. I think if I'd have stuck at it, because I did actually play for the county Colts when I was at school, but very quickly found that getting hit on the hand or the arms was not quite like holding a snooker cue, and I stopped at a very early age, and now and again I turn out in celebrity matches, so Gary really would be a better cricketer now as well.